All right, good. So, welcome everybody. I'm John Nesbitt. Welcome to another great episode of Million Dollar Practice Builders. This is where we interview people who will help you build your practice. It's always good to, when you're on the road, where you're trying to build something great, do something great, accomplish some big purpose, is to have mentors and people who've been there before or who have helpful advice or useful things for you along the way to kind of help you jump to that next level. You can try learning everything yourself, but it's really nice when you have someone just give you the answers right now. So that's what we try to do at Million Dollar Practice Builders. It's really for growth-oriented practice owners who are looking to change their world, change their community, and change the world, make a difference, not just make some money, but actually make a difference and operate on a higher purpose. And that's what we do here. So today, I'm very happy to have a good friend, longtime good friend, and just an amazing person in many, many ways I can't even get into right here, but I'm just a dynamic, different industries, different people, different professions. Greg Winteregg, actually it's Dr. Greg Winteregg, and we'll get into that in just a minute because it's not the doctor you think it is, guys. It's different. Dr. Greg Winteregg, who's, you can see his book behind him there, is Fun at Work. He's also a Profit First certified consultant, and he has an incredible history. I mean, hundreds or thousands of practices owners he's helped like grow to $1 million levels and beyond. I mean, like this is, if you want to sit at the knee of Yoda and grow your practice world, this is the guy. I really cannot give, and I'm really underpraising him. I mean, he's the real deal, guys. A lot of people talk a big talk, and they're kind of hustle guys, and they do this. And no, this is the guy who has done it, seen it, and solved it. And I'm hoping this will be one of the best spent times you have on a podcast for probably this year. I hope this will be really one of those things. So, setting low expectations there for you, Greg.
No pressure. Okay. No pressure.
All right. So, Greg, I kind of give a fumble through a bit of an introduction. Tell people about you. Tell people why does Greg know a thing or two about growing practices?
All right. Well, I'm a doctor because I graduated from dental school in 1981, and it's unbelievable that I'm saying that because this is 2021, and I'm like, holy smokes, has it been 40 years? So I bought a practice in a little farm town in Indiana and opened it up. And before I opened, I hired a consultant for 3 days and I gave him money that I did not have. I mean, the check was very close to bouncing, but I knew I needed some help because I didn't know anything about business. And that started a pattern of, for the next 10 years, I had 6 different consultants through the 80s and about $60,000. I'm talking on-site consulting, toll-free numbers, statistical graphs, and it just really wasn't working out all that great. I can't say that it was bad, but it didn't change anything until the spring of '92. It was terrible. I'm in a town of 10,000 with 11 dentists. According to the American Dental Association, you're only supposed to have 5 dentists in a town of 10,000. But I was in a strip mall with a grocery store, and there's only 3 in this little farm town, right? And so that kind of supported my growth. Well, the owners of the grocery store sold it in the fall of '91, and by the spring of '92, the grocery store was gone because they built a whole a brand new facility bigger than the strip mall across the street. Within 6 months, we lost the bookstore, the bridal store, and the 5 and dime, and there's 100,000 square feet empty and a laundromat and me, and everything just like tanked. And the consultant I was with had no idea what to do. And I came across a company in Chicago that didn't do consulting, but they did business training. If you can imagine, like a business training school for dentists, chiropractors, podiatrists, optometrists, and vets. I did all that training. I learned how to market. I learned how to sell. Nobody ever came to my practice. In 12 months, John, I doubled, brought on an associate, and was semi-retired at age 38.
Wow.
And that was business knowledge, general business training. And then I had to go home and I had to apply it. My staff and I had to apply it. And so at that time, honestly, I was working about 20 hours a week, making more money than I'd ever made. I had my first Corvette. I had a great house. I had a little Cessna airplane. I'd fly around the Midwest. So it was boring. So I started looking for a second location, and the partners at the management company heard about that, and they offered me a partnership. So in December of '93, I cashed out, sold to my associate, and joined up with that management company. That was a long time ago. December of '93, pretty wild. And today, that company is the largest of its kind in North America. We have clients in 48 states, half the provinces in Canada. location in St. Petersburg, Florida, satellite office in Anaheim. I don't know how many dentists I've lectured to.
I instinctively never trust these management consultants who can't seem to grow their own dang business, right?
Exactly.
You
believe
grew.
me, I hired one of those.
So you were one of the guys actually. You started off as a practitioner, and then you actually grew that, and then you got a management company, and you grew the hell out of that to be the largest of its type. So that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And so then it's kind of funny. I turned 66 this week, and my new saying is 66 is the new 38. There is no way that I'm anywhere near taking my foot off the gas. I'm on my 8th different Corvette. I take it to Sebring. I race it and go fast. I mean, so my life really is fun. I have a ball. And so 5 years ago, I restructured my my deal at the management company to start Matterhorn Business Development with my kids, Neil and Abby. And this is a general business mentoring company. We currently, coincidentally, have 4 chiropractors right now, and these guys are crushing it. I'm talking about $1 million practices, 250, 350, 400 visits a week, doing well. And what we did about a year and a half ago is we integrated profit first. Now I want to talk about this book for a second. I did not write this book. Mike Michalowicz is the author. He lives in New Jersey. This is small business cash flow management. And many of the chiropractors that we've met have heard of the book, but they've had a hard time implementing it. So Abby and I got certified as profit first professionals, meaning we now have all the spreadsheets, all the formula, and all the data for proper cash flow management of everything from a dental or chiropractic office all the way up to a construction company, painter, roofer, like everything in between. And so what we do now is small business mentoring. I lectured at the management company last week, but like my game right now is general business. How do I help the small business owner flourish, prosper, and not just make money, but keep some of the money? And then the final piece of the puzzle, and this is interesting, John, and I'll bet everybody watching this has these same 3 things that they're looking for. Every client we have, whether it's the attorney or the chiro or the roofer, everyone has these 3 goals. They want to expand and make more money, they want more profit, and they want to be extracted from the business. Yeah. They want the business to be able to run without them. And so that's what we're doing. And it's an absolute blast. Every client is different. Last month, we signed up a nephrologist, a kidney doctor in Tennessee with 4 locations who wants to franchise. And so we just deal with so many fun people, innovators in their own industry. And really, my life is just really a blast. It's a game. And during COVID, the client that expanded the least was 18%. Wow. We have clients that we picked up that tripled during COVID.
Now, one thing I want to, you hit this real quick, but I want to ask you, the Profit First has a particular headline thing that it does. Like it has a certain big idea that I think a lot of guys would appreciate knowing, like, what is the headline of that book?
Okay, so here's the big idea and the reason for the title. If you look at your profit and loss statement, the income is at the top, then you have your expenses, and your profit is at the bottom. And it happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to many, if not all of your viewers. You sit down with your accountant, they got your profit and loss statement right here, and they go, whoa, dude, congratulations. You made $50,000 in profit last year. And what's the next words? Where's the money? Yeah. But I don't have 50 grand in my, but there's that depreciation thing, and so it's profit on paper. Screw profit on paper, man. It's like, show me the money, right out of the Tom Cruise movie. So what the author did is he was tired. He had many businesses. He was tired of it. And so one day, and he tells a whole story in the book about how he flipped the formula. So there's the income. I'm taking my profit, and then I'm running the business with what's left over. And in the book, profit is defined as 3 accounts. You have your profit account, which you put 2, 3, 5, 10% in, owner's pay account, tax account, the government needs to be paid, and then operating expenses are what's left, and you run the company with what's left. Whereas usually what happens is it's revenue comes in, you pay your bills, and profit is what's left, and there's generally not any. And so it's a fantastic system. He's got a whole graduated He's got a scale in there based on your revenue range. Like if your revenue range is 250 a year or under, you should be taking 10% in profit, 15% goes into tax, 35% to the owner, and that leaves you, no, actually it's 30% operating expenses. And he's got this whole graduated scale up to $10 million. And he shows you the ideal percentages. And so we are always striving in our growth process here in my book of how to expand. We're always striving to hit that next profit margin and keep bumping it up while we're extracting the client from the business.
Right, because that profit first just handles one part of it, getting profitable. It's funny.
Yes.
It reminds me of, I actually learned this growing up, that people, this applies to business people or individuals. People are poor not because they don't make a lot of money, because of how they spend the money they get.
Yep.
Right. Like there are people who are broke, but they're not poor. You know what I mean? There are people people have tremendous cash flow who are basically broke all the time because the money goes, it's not controlled well. And I've seen what you mentioned. If you control it right, the money comes out first, and somehow magically the business runs on that smaller amount. Magically, it's amazing. When you give the business the whole cake to eat, it'll eat the whole cake. You get half the cake to eat, it'll get by. It's amazing, and you still get to live and have a life, right?
Well, and here's what I actually realized, because it's really funny. The very first accountant I had, this is July of 1981, sat down and said, "You're going to open up a separate savings account, and every week 7% of your deposit goes into that account, because that's not your money, it's the government's." He started not with that exactly, but he's like, a tax account. I never had problem paying taxes. Never.
Right.
And then I wanted my first Corvette. So I set up the Corvette account, and I just started shuttling extra money into the Corvette account. And when the Corvette account had the money in it, I went and bought the car. This is the same concept. And what I realized throughout my life and the whole process. So let's say you run your business and you want to take your kids to Disney World. You live in Atlanta and you want to stay at the Grand Floridian and you want to be there for a week, and you add it all up and it's going to cost you $15,000. Well, you have 5,000. So you have to sit down with Rose and say, "Rose, I know we said we're taking the kids to, but we can't afford it. What can we do? Because we can't afford going to Disney World." So we budget ourselves at home. We don't drive the car we don't want because we don't have the. So we change our lifestyle at home, but we let the business run willy-nilly and get a $20,000 website. And we're kind of like, so what I've realized in this whole thing is innovation happens at home when you want to go on a vacation because there's no money in the budget. Then what Profit First does is you have to innovate on how you're going to run the business. If you can't afford a $20,000 website and you're going to have to pay your brother-in-law, $300 to do it, and it's not what you want, but that's all you got, then that's all you got, because that's all that's left in the operating expense account.
Well, so many guys don't have difficulty determining what's important and what's not. Like, well, maybe the $20,000 website is a good deal. I don't know.
Exactly.
It sounds like a good deal. Sales guy is very convincing, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, there's a financial discipline, which, it's funny. I've seen clients do this. They'll blow money on the $20,000 website somewhere, and then they'll freak out over how much they're paying for paper in the office. It's like a $10 expense, right? Because they know they're being screwed over somewhere. They just can't quite put their finger on it, right?
They go like, "John, do you know how much we spent in paper clips last month?"
Oh my, that's outrageous. Can we get the plastic ones? Anyway, whatever. So yeah,
just to be clear and kind of finish the thought,
Yeah.
What the author does is he lays out a system that we do with all of our clients now. We have 5 accounts. So you have an income account where all the money goes in, cash, check, Visa, MasterCard, everything goes into the income account. Then you have the profit account, which is a savings account. You have the owner's pay account, which is something that you can transfer money in and out of easily. You have the tax account, which is another savings account. And then you have your operating expenses, which is the checkbook that you write your bills out of. So you do quarterly profit distributions, just like a real company. You have quarterly taxes that you pay, your tax estimates, just like, you're supposed to. And then the owner's pay is a percentage. So if you're supposed to be, let's say you want to take $1,000 a week, but the percentage now is putting in $2,000 a week. And now you're taking your 1,000, but whoa, wait a minute. Last week, only $500 went in, we have a little cushion in there because you've been putting in 2 and only taking 1. So you can still take 1, because how many times you hear, John, I just had to borrow for myself to cover payroll.
Yeah.
I haven't been paid in 6 weeks or 6 months. And that just needs to end.
Which they think about, for a business, the most critical employee isn't getting paid. It's kind of a problem. Like the guy who does the work is the one that, yeah, I know. It's one of the curses of business that you're the last to get paid. Well, you shouldn't be. And it flips. I love what you do. It flips everything on its head. It's very counterintuitive. It's like you think, oh no, you're supposed to scrimp and save and suffer. And no. And I know the system you use, and it lowers the high points are a little less high, but the low points are a lot less low, and just keeps you going along at a predictable rate. So you don't have to miss a mortgage payment, then pay 2 the next month. It's like, yeah.
And what we do then with our clients is we do a quarterly review on the percentages. So let's say, according to the chart, you're supposed to be taking 10% profit, and right now you haven't been taking any. Well, we're not going to start off with ripping 10% into a profit account, because you won't be able to pay your bills. So then we start out with 1% into profit, and the next quarter is going to be 2% into profit. And we do a quarterly review. And so we have to start squeezing the operating expenses down. We have to take a look at employees. Like, do you have any dead weight? Yeah. I mean, do you have somebody you're paying $20 an hour to just because?
But she's a really great person. She's awesome. And she's so nice to the cats, and
You got it. But wouldn't that $45,000 a year go a long way towards paying for your kids' college education? And you know what I'm saying? So,
or at least somebody who's doing the work, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. So, what is I like to ask this question of almost everybody. What is the biggest thing people misunderstand about what it is you do? Like you're. It sounds like you're just an accountant, man. No, I know you're much more than that. So, when you bring people to this idea, what's the first thing you have to clear up for them? That they go, oh,
well, that's a great question, because and I even made a video about this. By the way, if you want to hear more of our attitude and opinion and belief, you go to YouTube and search for Matterhorn, Matterhorn, like the mountain at Disney World. It's actually a mountain in Zermatt, Switzerland. Winteregg, by the way, is Swiss. My heritage goes back a long way across the pond. But you go to Matterhorn Business Development and subscribe. And I have a playlist of Profit First and a playlist of Fun at Work. And we did a video about what's the difference between a coach, a consultant, and a mentor. Because if we say we're a consultant, everybody's definitely like, oh, talk to the hand. You say a coach, well, everybody's a coach nowadays.
Yeah.
But I like the term mentor, because I'm definitely not going to make you do anything. But I've been around the block in 40 years in business. I was actually raised in the restaurant business. My dad and my uncle owned a restaurant.
Boy.
And so, I definitely have some business experience. And so we give advice, and we kind of give a box, keep it within this framework. Don't step outside this box right here, and you'll probably do fine. And so that's what's most misunderstood, is people are definitely done with coaches and consultants. But I think we definitely get more interest when we say we're a mentor, because when you think of having a mentor, like, I don't know, Mark Cuban's a billionaire. Wouldn't it be great if he could mentor you? You don't expect him to talk to you every week and come to your office.
Right.
Right. It's just like periodically he's going to say, are you sure you want to do that? Why don't you try this? And so I think that's the biggest thing that's not understood. The other thing that I honestly don't know very many people have even tried it is hit all business. At the dental practice management company, we took that vertical and have drilled down on it. And I believe I can back up that I've lectured since '93 to about 30,000 dentists. But that's like drilling down. But how do you have a process? How do you have a system that works for literally any industry?
Well, every business has profit and expenses, and an owner that wants to work on the business instead in the business. I mean, these are universals, no matter whether you're a butcher, baker, or candlestick maker.
Totally
right.
Universal. So I think that's what's hardest to describe, because people go, oh, well, you're just like a coach. No, we're not a coach. Oh, you're a consultant. No, I'm not a consultant. Well, what do you do then? Well, I'm going to give you business advice and keep you from driving off the cliff.
Oh, that's great.
And let me give you just a quick example. So and the way we work, there's several different ways. You can talk to us weekly, and these are weekly accountability and responsibility calls and strategy and action plans. So weekly, every other week, or we even have a group program that has a weekly group call. And so there's a couple different ways, but the first call is always 2 hours of onboarding. And in my book, I talk about the 4 pillars, my 4 pillars of business basics: marketing, sales, delivery, management. That's really all a business is: marketing, sales, delivery, management. So we're bringing on a client who by now has tripled, who has a residential engineering and architectural design company. So your foundation is cracked. You want to add on a deck or a porch, and you need a permit. So the very first call, he's like, I do these inspections, and then it leads to a design, and the design is usually $1,250. I'm like, great. And he goes, and I'm going to go get my mold inspector's license. I'm like, okay, that's curious. Why? Well, there's a lot of people that need mold inspections. I'm like, okay, how much do you get for a mold inspection? $400. I'm like, what kind of a design and drafting project does that lead to? He says, it doesn't lead to anything. So I'm like, okay, so you can do a $1,250 design off of a regular inspection of a foundation or a deck or whatever, but then a mold inspection leads to nothing. What are you going to do if they need mold remediation? Well, I got a friend I'm going to send the business to. I'm like, let's think about this. So on the beginning of the call, that sounds like a great idea. Everybody needs a mold inspection, but then stay in your lane.
Right.
And that business has now tripled during COVID.
Wow, that's great. Yeah,
So that's the kind of advice. I mean, that's just
I've seen a chiropractic version of this. I know a pretty large practice. They're doing great. They're well over seven figures a year and pounding away. Doing, they're medically integrated, so they had all those services in, and then they brought in an aesthetics machine, like a fat melting machine, right? And an aesthetic thing, and plump your lips and all kinds of things. A very expensive machine. It was like $80,000. This dang machine. It was like buying a Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of and they put a special room together for it with a special mood lighting. It's like a spa thing over there. And it was a disaster because when it came to marketing, they were able to market people to come in for their weight loss program or for their knee pain or whatever, and it would turn to other services, everything. But the aesthetics people were a different type of dude, a different person for a different reason. It's for vanity, not pain. And it was like having those people sit in the waiting room together was like weird. And it was like a different business. And so ultimately they ejected that because even though they were actually technically making money doing it, it just didn't fit. And actually, if you look at it, if they'd spent that time doing something that was more allied to what they actually do, they wouldn't have kind of drawn off the cliff there, as it were. I mean, the machine had to be offloaded at some point. I don't think it was at a profit,
Well, not to get too far off in the weeds, but there's a dental office in Zephyr Hills that I visited, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years ago, $1 million build out. I'm talking stained glass on the front door. And I mean, this place, cherry wood at the gas burning fireplace, and just magnificent. And they took a dental treatment room and hired an esthetician to come in so all the ladies could get their makeup done after a cleaning. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Wow.
I don't understand this.
Somebody sold him something terrible and he didn't have someone to discuss it with. That's what happened with this other fellow. So a salesperson comes in.
It sounded like a good idea at the time. We're going to have our dental spa.
Yeah, that's the tombstone of every entrepreneur. Is it sounded like a good idea at the time, right? Yeah, like it seemed awesome. We were all geniuses that day, and then the cold light of morning came, and we're like, oh yeah. That's actually where it's good to have people to talk to and have mentors, as you mentioned, that you can say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this crazy shift to the left. Am I being brilliant or am I like stupid? And that's a kind of gut check that was somebody else. And no.
Well, and you and I were talking about it before you hit the record button. I am a doctor. I mean, I don't actively practice, but I still have my Doctor of Dental Surgery degree. And we went back and forth. Are we going to put Dr. Greg Winteregg on the cover of my business book or not? And I'm like, we're notoriously awful at business. I don't know that anybody wants business advice from a doctor. So,
yeah. You know what? How many doctor consultants and mentors and coaches have there been that are like, yeah, a little dodgy,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why doctor isn't on the cover, because I thought it would actually hurt my reputation.
Well, okay. So let me ask you a couple things, some nuts and bolts about what you do. All right. So first, you mentioned some of the results you've had? Any other results you want to highlight of guys who've done this system? Like if someone says, "Okay, Greg, I'm gonna read the book. I'm gonna read both books and check your YouTube channel." But where does this lead to? Where could this go?
Well, and here's what's interesting. You can buy my book, and you can go to funatworkthebook.com, and you can download exercises at the end of every chapter. This really is a do-it-yourself book. It really is. But what we're finding, and what we've found now in the last 3 years, is there's so many distractions. There's so much going on. And here's the real problem in a professional practice. Like if we're talking about an attorney, an accountant, a doctor, a chiro, whatever. By law, you must own the business. So by law, you're the CEO. By law, you must diagnose. And by law, you must treatment plan and deliver the service. That's immediately an overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately. Because as you grow, you have to do everything. And so what we actually do is we extract the owner on a gradient. And we really, and I'll give you this story. So we have a guy who came on board. This is, let me get this right. It was before COVID. It was October of 2019. A local guy here in Clearwater who had a mowing company and landscaping company. He'd been open for 1.5 years. He had a crew of 2. He had 55 yards, and he was growing, and his crew was maxed out at those 55 yards. And he hadn't made his second or third quarter tax estimates. And he and his wife are kind of going back and forth because he wants to borrow money to get another crew because he can sell. Oh. And she's like, "Are you insane? You're 2 quarters behind in your taxes." And so they hired us, and we've been talking to that guy every other week since October of 2019. At the time, his revenue is annual, or his monthly revenue is about $7,000. By January the 15th, so 4 months later, his revenue was at $14,000, and he was all caught up on his taxes. By March, right when COVID hit, he had hit 18,000. So he'd gone from 7 to 18 in like 6 months. He has since now added a landscaping crew for a $175,000 landscaping job following a seawall, et cetera, et cetera. He added another person to his mowing crew. He dropped all the $60 yards, the $100 yards, the $125 yards. He now has 3 HOAs paying him between $2,500 and $3,000 a month. And I remember this very clearly. It was November of last year, and still things were on a little bit of a lockdown or whatever. And we have our call with him, and he says, "Guys, I got a problem." My daughter Abby's on the calls with me. So he'd been a client for 13 months. He says, "I got a problem." Like, "Bring it on, let's solve it." He goes, "I woke up this morning and I don't have anything to do." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "Well, we got the crew in Apollo Beach running, and I got 3 guys down there, and he's billing $15,000 a month, right? He used to make 7,000 working, etc. He's got the other 3-man crew, and that's all running in Clearwater now with 65 yards instead of 55 yards, plus the HOAs." And he's like, "So I don't have anything to do today. What do I do?" 13 months to basically.
So he's got the money and the freedom. What do you know?
All his accounts are set up. He's got money in his tax account. He can go to his phone and give me the exact dollar in the profit account, the owner's pay account, and the tax account. He takes his quarterly profit distributions. And of course, there's things that are going to go wrong. And this guy quits, and this one moves, and his servicing truck breaks down. Of course, that's just part of being in business. But there's always a solution. It's not stressful, overwhelming. Oh my goodness,
So you could do that for the viewers watching this. They could get free. They could have the money, and like the Holy Grail. You could have the money and the time.
Yep.
The stress.
And I did it in 12 months myself. And by the way, in 1992 there was a recession. Bill Clinton had just taken over from George Bush the first. I was in a dead strip mall in a town of 10,000 with too many dentists, farmers. This is not a suburb of anything. It was the county seat. You get the typical Indiana farm town. I did it in 12 months. And I'm telling you, I am not embarrassed to say I graduated from college with a B+ average. Definitely not the smartest guy in the room, but I was raised in the restaurant business, and I guarantee nobody's going to outwork me. And so all I needed was some guidance and some direction and putting some focus and some smart business advice into play. And really the rest is history.
Yeah, it seems like once you have the basics, you know what to do, and you have someone to help you implement them. Because I think the part of having someone else, like I don't know, all the time I crave like little masterminds or talking to other business people like you, and like, hey, let's just shoot this shit for a little while and talk about
Yeah,
business because I got problems. I love to tell you about them. I love to hear about yours. I can probably, you know how you always solve the other guy's problems super easy,
totally.
right? Like, oh,
Totally.
your
Yeah.
problems, oh, those are easy. Here's 5 solutions. My problems are impossible, right? It's always nice to have someone to kind of pull you out of those, right?
Well, and it's funny because with the 4 chiropractic, and by the way, I didn't go into this to work with chiropractors. My daughter went to a female networking meeting in Tampa, and she said, "I'm a profit first professional." And a chiropractor said, approached her and said, "I've read that book. Can you help me?" And now she's in that strata, of the top providers in the country, and she's led us to her friends. And I sit down and we do our regular meetings with them, and invariably I go, "So why do you do it like that?" And I go, "Well, I don't know. That's what everybody else does." And I joke is it took a dentist to straighten out a chiropractic practice. And I'm sure a chiropractor could straighten out a dental practice, just say, "Well, that's kind of weird. Why do you do it like that?" "Well, I don't know. That's what everybody says to do. The dude from the stage, he's really popular and famous." And
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, it is a wonderful thing. I mean, I also happen to run a business that we got a lot of staff, but I was able to take 6 months off recently and come back to a business that was the same size or bigger than I left it. Don't sell, don't deliver. When you get business can be so much fun when
yeah,
when you're not stressed and you're not like worried about money all the time or worried about the disaster that could come along. I mean,
yeah,
it is such a joy. And then when you're doing something, I think actually in healthcare, when you're actually out, like many of our chiropractors are doing, are changing the world. I mean, we got American healthcare is sick as a dog, and
yeah,
we have the
terrible.
cure for it. And bit by bit, I see inroads being made. You see the public opinion turning in
Yep,
favor of this business model and this
yep,
healthcare model. And I
yes,
think it's a huge thing. So that
I
anything which
agree.
helps people accomplish that, you should have a good time when you're saving the world. Dang it, it should be fun. You know,
It should be fun.
you help people out. So,
Should
okay,
be
great.
fun.
So we covered how people can get a hold of the book.
Yep.
They can order the book anywhere. Profit
They
first.
can order the book. It's like the Kindle version is $3. You go to Amazon if you want the hard copy. It's
Oh,
called
you're really soaking them, man. You're really soaking them for that $3,
the
man.
color version. I paid more for the color visuals because it's more aesthetic. I think it's $25. Audible, you can get the audio version. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You get information there. Another thing, if you don't want the one-on-one exactly, we've had tremendous success in our group. You can go to adventuretoprofit.com and you can fill out the application and see if you're a good fit for our group mentoring.
Okay,
We
but
also
for folks who are listening on the audio version of the podcast, it's Greg Winteregg, spelled Greg, and then Winteregg, Winteregg. That's how you find them. And it's Fun at Work is the name of the book, and Profit First is the other book. And I forget how to pronounce his name. Was it
It's Mike McAllowitz.
McAllowitz? All right. Well,
Yeah.
good luck spelling that. But anyway, so
Just
but
do profit first.
yeah, you'll
And
find it.
there's 2 versions. The version 1 has a pink piggy bank on the cover. This cover is the updated
The blue
version.
circle. Okay, so the Profit
Yep.
First, the blue
The
circle. Great.
blue circle profit first.
Look, in business, you learn. You never stop learning. There's always good ideas, and if someone could take away those ideas and connect
Yep.
with you and get that help, I would love to see someone grow and just actually it happens all the time with what you're doing now. So I'm super happy that
Yeah,
what's
it's a
going on
blast.
out there, and you're
Yeah,
willing
it's
to
a
serve our
blast.
guys.
Yeah.
All right, good. Anything else we want to cover on this? I always like to be thorough. Anything else you want to say? We know how to
Well, I
reach you.
guess there's something very, very specific that I do want to go over because when I decided to do this, it was a little nerve-wracking because in the dental arena, my name has been out there on promotion basically since December of '93, and I have a bit of a brand, and many know who I am, and the usual. Some love me, some hate me, whatever. But I am now, when I'm deciding to start Matterhorn, I'm heading out into an arena where nobody knows who I am, and I don't even know that they'll even care about my story. It's pretty amazing what what I've been able to do just in my dental practice with the management company, et cetera. And by the way, I started a nonprofit called the Private Dentist Alliance to pull private practices together to help fight the corporate takeover of dentistry. I know the same thing's happening in chiropractic.
Yeah, I'll tell you, chiros know that, but dental, I mean, we all have we're all part of the same sick system.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a similar problem, similar professional. I've talked to dentists who are like that. They're on fire about that because it's destroying their profession, and that you're riding in on a white horse like, hey, let's fix this. Here's the solution. Right. Oh man.
You know. My alliance now has 300 private practices as members. I've got alliances with the top speaker in the world and dental manufacturing companies. And so I'm accomplished in my own arena, but it's a little nerve-wracking. It's like, who cares? You know, why is the roofer going to care? You know what I mean? And so it's real interesting what happened, John, is as I'm listening, let's go back to the residential architect. I'm listening. And I think with only 4 things: marketing, sales, delivery, and management. That's all I think with.
Agree with that.
Okay. And so as he's saying this, I'm like, so you're going to market this and sell that, and it's not going to lead to any delivery. And so I just said it. And so it's, this is not unique to me. You could do this. Your chiropractors could do this. If we just kind of like step outside and just start looking in.
Yeah, look at the business basics. I mean, people think that, I mean, like if you're a great practitioner, that's all you have to be. Exactly. We've seen so many great practitioners who die in the ditch. They're just not well seen. They're not known. It does take being a good practitioner. You got to be really good. But those other parts of the business have got to be in, or you're going nowhere, and you can't really reach your true potential.
And I will tell you, I don't have any client right now that thinks they suck at delivery. Nobody does. They are proud of their delivery. Nobody does it like this. We do this extra. We don't even charge for that. We rock. We kick. Can I say kick ass, or is that going to have to be edited out? But anyway, everybody is like, they think their delivery pillar is rocking awesome. And there's never been a bigger lie than build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. That's a big lie. Maybe you can hit, lightning will strike every now and then. You can win the lottery every now and then, but you've got to be able to market it. You got to be able to sell it, and you got to be able to organize and manage, or there's not going to be any mousetraps. And so what I actually realized is everybody thinks they're different. Everybody thinks my business is different. My industry is different. My company is different. I'm like, I'm here to tell you, man, it's all the same. Every entrepreneur starts the business with delivery in mind. Right. I can do this better. I can do this better. I can do this better. I got an idea. I can build. Who would open a pizza shop in New York? But they do.
9 million of them.
Because 9 million of them. Yes. One on every block, because my pizza is going to be better. All right, good. So now, great. Make a better pizza. How are you going to market it? How are you going to price it? And I just want to get off into this for a second and steer me back if I go off in the weeds.
Okay.
I put together a spreadsheet that I honestly have never seen before, because I would look at a doctor and I would say, you need to raise your fees. I would watch him turn white, reach for the garbage bag to throw up. I had a dentist once who's 66 years old, working 5.5 days a week, having a hard time paying his bills because he's in one of these Acme dental plans, reducing the fees. I said, you need to get out of that plan because it's killing you. His wife burst into tears. We'll go broke. And I did a spreadsheet and showed them they could drop 1/3 of the patients, work 4 days a week instead of 5.5, and make $450,000 a year instead of 300, and they couldn't do it. Wow. And so I put together on a spreadsheet average transaction value, like average patient visit revenue, expense, and profit. And I've never seen it like I did this with the lawn care guy. I got a restaurant owner in Buffalo that raised his fees by 20%, doubled his profit overnight, and didn't have one complaint. So that's part of sales, and it's part of profit.
Yeah, let me bring up. I've got something we've used here amongst our own clients. So we have found that when someone comes to us to be a client for us, if they have an average package price of under $1,200, they literally cannot afford to do paid marketing. It's very difficult. It's a very narrow path to walk on. If it's under $800, we literally can't do anything for them. And actually, we have a rule now: we don't take anybody who doesn't have an average package price initial value of $1,500 because it takes that much. Now, what's interesting is I've got guys all over the country doing the same services at vastly different prices. One guy here, $1,000 for that treatment, that plan, but over here it's $3,500. Same thing. Same types of markets, same everything. It's a mindset that if you get locked in, that's again where a good mentor is good to have, because you got to have someone tell you where you're blind. You can't see your own blind spots, and pricing is a huge one. Most people go, well, they tried to sell the $2,000 package, they failed. They had that one person, so now they discount it to $1,500. Please pay the $1,500. Oh, well, the $1,500. Okay, so now I'm down $1,100. I mean, eventually you talk yourself right out of business, and so
And so on this spreadsheet, like with the restaurant owner, I actually showed him that with a 20% increase, now we're not talking about thousands of dollars, we're talking about a $10 item going to $12 or a $15 item going to $18. He could lose 25% of his business and make the same profit.
Yeah.
And make the same profit. So it's the same is my point. Every business is the same. I know you love your delivery pillar. I know that you rock. Your quality is amazing, but you got to market it. You got to sell it. And part of selling is pricing. Yep. And then you got to manage so that you end up with some profit. I mean, the reason you're in business is for profit. And if you're having to take your personal money to cover payroll, or you're skipping paychecks, that business is on life support. It's not normal just because, your friend has the same problem, or somebody from the stage says that it's not normal.
Actually, many chiropractors do the saying, just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal, right?
You got it.
So,
you got it.
And I don't want anybody who's watching this podcast to feel actually the financial stress. You should not. You've got the better mousetrap. You've got a public that is aching, begging, wishing to buy this. We do a survey on the chiropractic public. You know what number one thing they want? Healthcare without side effects. That's what they want. They've been hit with all these drug commercials, and they've changed their mind. And that's what they want. They want what you sell. All you have to do is get in front of them before they go down the other path, and you win. So
absolutely.
But
then here, circling back around, and I love your model, and I didn't know this, that you actually, part of your initial interview is what your average plan cost.
Yeah.
Because they have to be
actually that's the pre-sales interview. We don't even bother.
Yeah, exactly. Before you're willing to take any money.
Yeah.
Like do they value their service at that level, and can they sell their service at that level? And you kind of got the bottom line at $1,250, $1,500.
Because those are the ones who end up dominating their markets. The guys who go lower than that, they have a little mom and pop business. They never grow big enough to dominate or even challenge the status quo in their area. Yep. They're kind of living in the shadow, living under the shadow of the bridge, like trolls. Like, just I want to be in my little space and do my thing. Why can't I grow or hire staff? But the guy down the street is charging enough, and they go, well, that guy's just ripping people. He's charging people too much. No, he's not. He's charging enough to be in business and to move the needle in his community. Because if you're not as big as the local medical center, you're not big enough yet.
That's right. And just along that line, I think I'd like to make one other point before we end off. Okay. And this happens in healthcare. I know it happens in dentistry. I'm sure it happens in chiropractic. So if you look at the hotel motel industry, let's talk about 4 businesses: Motel 6, Holiday Inn, Hilton, and the Ritz. And if you look at their logos, you know who's the cheapest. And Motel 6 is proud of it. Lowest price of any nationally advertised chain, right? And so that's their model. That's who they are. Now the Ritz. So I don't know, a number of years ago for Christmas, I gave my wife 3 nights in Manhattan. And we went to shows and restaurants. It was fabulous. And we stayed at the Waldorf. It wasn't the Ritz. But I got the little suite thing, and it was $7.95 a night. And we walk in, and here's a cheese plate and some grapes, a little bottle of white wine, a little bottle of red wine. You walk into the bathroom, and you think you're at Walgreens drugstore. You got mouthwash, toothpaste, toothbrushes, makeup remover. There's the little thing that shines my shoes over in the corner. There's robes, there's slippers. My wife goes, "This is amazing." And the CEO and me said, for $7.95, I better get some of this crap. So last year, my son is visiting his in-laws in the country in Northern California. The only place open was a Motel 6. Only place they could get a room. So he gets there and there's no shampoo and conditioner in the bathroom. Oh, the maid forgot. He gets on the phone, he calls the front desk, and he's like, I need somebody to bring me some shampoo and conditioner. You know what the receptionist said? Sir, you're at Motel 6.
Guess you were lost, buddy.
So I went online and I did this research. And if you don't have time for this rant,
That's all right.
I did this research. In 2018, Motel 6 out of 1,460 locations did 2 billion. That's international. That's a nice business.
Yeah, that's
right?
good. Yeah.
Ritz-Carlton, 101 locations, 5.4 billion.
Wow.
Now imagine the meeting in the boardroom at these two companies. So Motel 6 is, how can we do it cheaper? How can we cut costs? You know what? We need to get rid of that shampoo and conditioner, and that will add blah, blah, blah to the bottom line. The meeting around the Ritz-Carlton boardroom is, how do we add more value? How do we make that $795 a night room in Manhattan worth it? You know what? We're adding cheese, we're adding grapes, we're adding wine, we're adding the shoe shine, we're adding the robes. And so it's an entirely different model.
And while we're at it, make it $7.95, make it $8.95. There you go. Covers the grapes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And what happens in healthcare, you get all excited about your product and service, and you're providing Ritz service at Motel 6 and Holiday Inn prices.
Oh.
It does not work. It just doesn't work. And so I'm not the one to race to the bottom on the price. I'm the one, how do we elevate our price to match our service? We have our delivery up here and our price here. Good. We need to ratchet it up. And so with the yard guy, he's like, well, I can sell. I'm like, great, go sell. He says, but I can't deliver anymore. Okay, so you're not allowed to sell another yard under 125 bucks. You sell a 125 and you go to a 60 person and you say, I'm raising my fees to 125. He says, they'll quit. Exactly. And so you still have 55 clients and now you raised your profit margin. He did that over the span of 90 days and basically doubled.
Yeah. Well, to let you
goes through the roof.
I'll tell you, I'll let you know on something we did. So after I told you, I've been out of the business for a while, and I got back and we were in a long flat space, and I realized we were charging our clients $1,500 a month for the service. And I was looking, it was getting less and less profitable to do so because it takes a lot of labor and energy. So I raised prices. I raised it to $2,000 a month, and we lost 6% of the clients, but we raised prices by 33%. Right. And it went us from actually being where we're kind of scraping along, like, oh yeah, it's all right. So now we actually can afford to put out, we're magazines and this show and other stuff. We can afford all that stuff now because we're charging enough for our services. The clients are still happy. We just making sure they make more money and everybody's happy. We just, okay, we're gonna make everybody have the extra $1,000 or $2,000 a month, and we'll charge them $500 more extra, and they're happy. I didn't mention the 6% of clients who left. They're the ones we didn't mind. They were like the squeaky wheel, like, fine.
You got it.
Like, yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I've never seen anybody say I went out of business because I raised prices.
Right.
But it does take stones to do it. It takes effort, energy, and confront. You're like, okay, and you got to tell some people. You can have some bad conversations, but you're gonna have a lot of okay. Like most of our clients are like, okay, I say, yeah, inflation. It's been years since we raised prices. They go, okay, they like the service. And I told my guys, I said, our delivery game is not that is to make sure they all make extra money and next, just making more money, just have it work better. So anyway, I think it's I think the principles that you've got a hold of will help guys. If you've been struggling to build $1 million practice, this is the debug. This is the fix. This is the oil you've needed in the engine to get it to go. And I'm super happy. So I if someone's listening this long to our little chat here, just read the books, will you? Call Greg. I mean,
and I'm even going to throw this out for your viewers. You and I are great friends. Known each other for decades now. I'm willing to do this for your $1 million guys. If they're still here right now to get this information, I don't want you to publish this anywhere else.
Okay, I promise.
I'm going to give you my personal email address.
Okay.
And if you want to have a 30-minute to 1 hour call with me for free, if you're still here right now, you've earned it.
Okay, I'm going to hint that people stay to the end, but okay, good. All right, good.
It's Greg, Greg, not two G's at the end, Greg at Matterhorn, Matterhorn, biz, B-I-Z, dev, dev.com. Greg at matterhornbizdev.com. You send me a personal email. I will personally give you free, no charge practice evaluation.
Wow, well, that's
Earned it for
great.
being here.
Totally appreciate it, man. All right, good. That's the I left the podcast running while I was in the shower, and I got to the end. I got a good. Yeah. All right, good, fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, thank
This
you.
has been a blast, John.
It is always great to talk to you, man, and we could catch up some other stuff later on. But anyway,
Absolutely.
all right, my friend. Have a great rest of the day, and yeah, talk to you later.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
All right, bye.